Retreat. Hello! Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another episode of Routine Podcast. And today we have a very special guest, our very close friend, Marisha Naz.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
No worries. Thank you for joining us. And we'll be talking about a subject that's close to our hearts, which is nutrition and body image. So, Marsh, being the guest that you are today, do you mind introducing yourself to our audience?
Sure. Hi, everybody. So I'm Marisha. Kuya, Mara, and I, we all went to college together, so we've known each other for quite some time now. I'm currently living in Luxembourg, and I work for Amazon, and I'm a product manager for nutrition and healthcare products. So, I guess that's kind of a segue into why we're talking about this today. But also, I have been pretty athletic throughout my whole life, and sports has always been like a really big component of my life, even if it's not something I'm doing like professionally or seriously. And that's always been one of the areas that has been a really big pillar, and that's also affected kind of the nutrition aspect of why I take nutrition seriously over the years. And yeah, I think that's kind of why I was really interested to come on the podcast and talk about this topic, because it's really close to my heart, both personally in my personal life and also in my work life. It's something that I deal with every day. So super cool to be on here. I think that's kind of it in terms of the introduction. Yeah.
And I can completely attest to that. As a 10-year-old friend of yours, I feel like Marsha's Instagram feed is where like you go to find like good recipes or just like healthy living. And you always have like one of your friends in your sphere of friends who you always turn to when you have questions about like what best to eat or how to have better like healthier living habits. And for me, that's always been Marsh to kind of tap into.
I'll also say that I moved out of Malaysia 2 years ago after I finished studying. I did my MBA in the UK, and then I got a job here in Luxembourg. And for those of you who don't know, it's a country that's really, really small. There's like 500,000 or 600,000 people in total, and there are not that many food options. So that's really what catalyzed my interest in beyond just like being healthy and eating healthy, but also like cooking healthy. So this only started like 2 years ago when I moved to Luxembourg for my job. Yeah.
So it sounds like it's like a out of necessity.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, like, I think just to give a bit of an overview as well, like Marsh mentioned that we all met in college. So we were all doing our A levels. We were 18, right, guys? I think we were 18.
Yeah, 18. Yeah, I
After
think so.
SPM, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like we've known each other for about like over a decade, but I think we've never really talked about body image per se. I think I personally haven't talked about body image with you guys, so I think it's quite interesting to have everybody here. So this is a segue to our first question to Marsh. So when did you first become aware of your body? Like how old were you, and like just basically walk us through your progression from like teenage Marisha or like to now.
Yeah, sure. So I think in terms of body image, the first time I really noticed anything was probably when I was 13 or 14. I started to get like facial hair, like, like the thin female mustache. And I was like, oh my God, why is this happening? And that was like the first time. I don't really have vivid memories prior to that. And I've always felt like I had more facial hair compared to other girls. And that was always you just don't know why, and you think it's normal. And like I guess when you're 14, 15, you don't do your own shopping, or you don't have like money or whatever to go and fix it yourself. So you just kind of like live with it. And guys especially used to tease me about it, but I'll just be like, yeah, okay, whatever. Have like the solid face up front about it. But yeah, that actually then linked on to a lot of the other not issues, but other body issues that I started to discover over the years, which links to hormonal imbalance mainly. So like girls who have like more facial hair like me, you generally probably have like some sort of hormonal imbalance. Like you either have like PCOS or higher testosterone, and that's why you have these features that are traditionally associated with being more manly in females. But I didn't know that at the time, and during that time when I was like 14, 15, I also got my period pretty late in
Oh,
life.
how old were you?
Yeah. So I think I was like 14 or 15.
Oh,
think most people get it when they're like between 8 to 12, right? Yeah. And it's all linked to the sports that I used to do. And the doctors used to just say it was because you're so active in sports. Like I play sports every day. I was like part of like multiple sports teams. And they're like, it's very normal for girls who are very active to one, have an hormonal imbalance, and two, like get your periods quite late or don't even get them at all. So that's when I started realizing that, oh, okay, my body's different. There are certain things which are different. But, you know, I always was like, okay, it's fine because I get to do all my sports stuff. So, you know, let's not worry about it and move on. So that would be the first time that it really dawned upon me that all our bodies are different and things change as you grow older.
all right. And like, did you ever discuss about all these questions that you have about your body with anyone, like your mom or like your friends? Did you guys ever talk about it?
So yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I don't think I talked about it, but like obviously, you know, when you get your period, then you need to start buying period products. So then, you know, I would tell my parents like, oh, hey, this has happened. We wouldn't talk about it, but they would say that, oh, certain things are not normal. I remember, like, I think when I got my first period, it went on for like 40 days and it was during Ramadan.
What?
So I didn't mind because I was like, oh, I don't have to fast.
Been there, guilty.
So I thought it was like, oh, it's so cool. And then after that, I would like not get my period for like I would get it like once every 6 months. And again, my parents was like, oh, that's not normal. But I was like, hey, I don't really mind because, you know, I don't have to, you know, change your pad. I don't have to buy this. I can do all my sports. To me, I was like, oh, it's great. But they did tell me, you know, hey, it's not normal. And they did take me to see a gynecologist, I think when I was slightly older, a little bit like 16 or 17, when this kept going on. And I mean, they couldn't find anything that was wrong with me. They were just like, hey, you know, you're very active. And that's what they always kept saying. If you want, you can go on the pill to regulate your hormones.
At that age.
Yeah, at that age. But there's nothing really that else that's wrong that you should be worried about. So I was like, okay, done. And that's about as far as the conversation went. It was more to manage the period part, but not really like, oh, you know, this also leads to facial hair or this leads to other, you know, like I learned that certain hormonal imbalances give you more energy, and I felt like I've always been an energetic person, and I thought it was just because, you know, I'm very driven, or, you know, it's just the way it is. But actually, you know, I have like this hormonal imbalance that sometimes during the month helps me and sometimes it doesn't, and it's not natural. So that's something that I discovered, but we didn't talk about it like beyond the more like gynecological aspect of the topic.
And I'm guessing all this you didn't know yet when you were going through it?
No.
Or were
no.
you already like told, you know, 15, 16 that, okay, there are going to be some times in the month that you're going to be super energetic. So make sure you go through all
No,
your
I didn't know. At the time, all I got told was it's the same thing over and over again. It's just like you're very active, so it's normal that because I'm active, it's normal. So I was like, okay, fine.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that's interesting. But it's interesting that eventually you found out what actually is the true story
Yeah.
of your
Yeah,
body.
exactly.
But that shows the kind of like, I feel, to nobody's fault, but we didn't have a lot of knowledge back
Exactly.
then to even start questioning like, why is my
Yeah.
daughter getting period quite late and she's getting it for 40 days? I
Yeah.
think now we would be a bit more like, we need to figure this out because
Yeah. I think when I joined college and like I was less active,
Mhm.
and if the hypothesis is because you're active this happens, then that means when I'm less active, maybe things
should
should
be
become
normal.
normal. And that was when I saw like, I mean, I was still playing sports and stuff through college and uni, but not as active as when I was in high school. And then, you know, it would still continue, and that's when I was like, oh, okay, I don't think this logic really makes sense. But I felt like there was no point talking about it because all the doctors would circle back around the same thing. It's either you take the birth control pill or, you know, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with you. So I felt like I wasn't really given meaningful help.
I see. And did you notice, like, other than the facial hair, anything else that you like or dislike about your body as you were growing up? Because you were super active and everything. Yeah.
So I think I was never really someone to like scrutinize like how my body looks, like aesthetically. It was more like what my body can do. It's like the performance aspect. So I would get annoyed when like I can't run as fast, or I can't jump as high, or I can't I don't have the upper body strength to do certain things that I want to do. That is when I felt like, oh, I don't so I have slightly longer legs, and I have like a higher torso. So sometimes it makes certain movements a bit harder, like if you want to stretch or whatever. And I'm always like, oh, I'm not as flexible. Why is that the case? Those used to be some of the thoughts that would go through my head. So it's more from a performance perspective rather than from a image perspective. But I think it's kind of the same, right? You look at something and you're like, why am I not something else?
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And also, Myra, what about your side of the story? Like, when did you first become aware of your body and everything?
Yeah, I feel that my story is a typical story of a girl who was told that she was fat. I was 10, and I was a very tall girl for my age at that time, very mature, already had, boobs, curves, and all that. So I was taken out at school, and it was a female teacher with another student who was my age, and she got us out for lunch. And because I was, already sort of, I looked like I was 17, 18, right? When I was 10. So if you can imagine, that's why I would eat like a full plate of food, because I have an appetite for somebody who was already 150 centimeters tall at age, compared to like somebody else who's 9 or 10. So what the teacher's comment was, Amira, ni kalau tak jaga ni semangat ni badan.
I don't know, why did you say that? Semangat.
Semangat meaning like, you guys know what it means, right? So now that I'm older, right, let's just like take a step back. You're saying this to a 10-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So anyway, I'm talking about my experience. So I was there, I listened to that, and 20 years later, I still remember that moment. That's how much that has scarred me. So up from that point, I was always fearful that I was going to be overweight. So my teenage years was filled with this fear of being overweight. But I didn't do anything about it in terms of like taking care of my nutrition or holding back what I'm eating. And this goes to show that I didn't have a lot of knowledge of nutrition at home or throughout growing up. But I was just fearful, right? I just didn't want to be overweight by this, I don't know what expectations that has been brought up on me. But true enough, I grew up and I did become overweight. So yeah, that is still, something that goes in my head even up till now. I don't really have a positive view of my body in general. And it's just this mentality of a fat kid. And it's something that
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, sorry. Did you feel like you were lesser compared to your peers at that time because of your...
I felt like I had to work harder. And similar to how Marsh is saying, right? Like it's all about the performance. I played a lot of sports as well growing up, despite my weight or whatever. I wouldn't say I was fat. If you look at my teenage pictures, like I was not fat, but in my head, I was fat. So I played a lot of sports, I danced a lot, but I felt that because my thigh is this big, I just cannot put certain position. I cannot be in certain position when I dance, or I'm just heavier. I couldn't run as fast, which by the way, I was in track. I did sprints all throughout high school, and they called me the running teddy bear. That was my thing. That was my nickname. And surprisingly, I was quite good at sprinting. So it was a lovable nickname, but it's still a nickname that kind of scarred me, even now thinking about it. So yeah, I don't have rosy pictures to paint about how I grew up looking at my body. I was constantly reminded as well that I don't have the right body for the person that I am, being a female Melayu girl, aside from being fat, being dark skinned. all things that don't match. Yeah, so here we are now, still struggling with body image. Stop.
But that's why we're talking about this today as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay,
yeah.
I think I'll just chime in here about like my experience. So I think I'm the opposite to both of you. I don't play sports. So I did like run a bit here and there, but I'm not like an athletic person. So I think when I was growing up, I always wanted to be beautiful. So like when I was younger, like a little kid, everyone would say, "Oh, you're so pretty, you're so pretty." So I grew up wanting to be only that. Like, oh, like this is my value is like there. So I think it became like so I started getting older. I got my period when I was 12, but before that, I think my body started changing when I was 9. So I remember one day, my mom told me that, oh, like you can't wear skirts or you can't wear jeans because your thighs are too big. So I felt like, oh, like, yeah. So that was when, I'm sorry, I'll cut this part out, but like, yeah, so I think from I was 9 till I think about like 28 was when I just wanted to fit into whatever the standard was. So I think I didn't look at my body from a functional point of view. So it was more like, it was like 200% aesthetics. Like I would diet, I would work out, but just so that I would be thin. So I felt like being thin would solve a lot of problems at that time.
Yep.
When did you start this, like the diet and working out?
The diet, so like I was 9 when I got like some comments, and then I went to a girls' school, which I think kind of like how do you call it? I think
Like fuel to the fire.
Yeah, exacerbated the issues that I was already having. So I think but I was also wanted to be good in school. So I remember I didn't diet up until after PMR. So I wanted to get like straight A's for PMR. And I was like, no. So after PMR, you have like 1 year form 4 where you can do whatever you want. Like you chill and then you focus again when for SPM. So I was 16 when I started to diet and everything. Yeah. That was
How do you know what diet to do?
So my mom, like, she noticed that I was struggling a bit. I wasn't fat. I was never fat, but I think I was just a bit chubby compared to how I was when I was younger. And then, and maybe like I had like bad skin, and then my hair wasn't straight. I don't know. But like all the girls in
Hair not straight. That's like an interesting one to be like insecure. I mean, I'm not shaming you. I'm just saying in general.
Right? Hair not straight. Yeah.
Yep.
You have like silky straight hair. So everyone did the rebonding. You guys remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. I wanted to, but my parents didn't let me do it because it was really expensive, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom did not allow anything, like any heat on my hair up till I was like 18.
Wow.
Until I had my own money. She's like, nope, no heat for your hair.
Yep. Same.
Yeah, I did all of that when I was like, yeah. So I think when I was struggling with my weight for a bit, like my mom took me to, like, remember like the old TV video shops and Mr. Speedy where you can go and rent. So like she bought me like an exercise tape for yoga. It was like, oh, like you can do this. So if you want to lose weight, she bought me that. So that was like the most precious gift ever, and I did it.
Wait, how old were you?
I think it was the yoga thing. I was probably like Form 1, Form 2-ish. Yeah. So this was still like healthy way of losing weight. Yeah. So then she told me to do that. Yeah. So that was my first encounter about exercise. So other than that, it was just like, because we didn't have internet, right? So I would just like, I think magazines, like 17 magazine.
Yeah.
So like I would like buy those or like save my pocket money and go buy it and then like read about like how to diet, how to become this blonde, skinny, tall person.
Yeah. The 10 ways to lose fat and look great this summer. Like, yeah.
It's interesting because I feel like we went through the same thing, right? Because I was also don't like my weight, but I never like got all this information. Like I never got like in my teenage years.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I never got into like dieting, or I don't know, maybe because it was completely not in front of me. Or also I went to boarding school, so there was not time to. We were always just like busy, right? I didn't really have outside influence.
Oh, right.
I feel like when you go to boarding school, you're quite insulated.
Yeah. Fair. No, but I would say like I didn't even know that. Like, so I think you know that you can diet to lose weight. I always knew like that was like a connection, but I didn't know you could do diet for like other parts of your life as well. That was like a
What do you
like
mean
just
by
something I
diet?
didn't know. So like you can diet to fix like energy levels. You can diet to reduce inflammation in your body. You can diet to balance your hormones. In my case, you can diet to some people have like early age diabetes, right? I didn't know that you could use food for like all these
I
things.
knew
I
I knew
thought
this
it
like
was just
12 months
like
ago. Yeah, not
like
when I
I
was like,
only
yeah.
knew it was like for people who wanted to lose weight. And because I didn't want to lose weight, so I didn't turn to like
Oh
food, and
wow.
I never knew that you could do
That's a
this.
good
So
point.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. So both of you, like, it was more of a, like a recent thing. So yeah, which leads me to the next question, Marsh. So what triggered you to learn more about like health and nutrition? Like, what was the trigger?
I think the trigger was when I started working, because I clearly stopped playing all this like intensive sports after university, and I used to get really bad period pains. I still do, and they consistently get worse and worse over the course of my life. So basically, when I started work at 23,
Mhm.
I would notice that on the days before I get my period, it's quite painful. And I'm like, we'll be like in a meeting and really, really suffering. And there are days I have to take like 4 or 5 Panadol pills to just make it through the day. And then that's when I started to Google and realize as well, like, why, like I know that, people always say like, oh, PMS is normal, but you don't know when normal becomes not normal. That's not very clear. So yeah, I started when I started working, when I started to see these period pains were getting worse. And every time I used to go and get medical advice, the advice would still be the same from when I was like 15 or 16, which is either take the pill, or don't do
Must have been
anything
so
about it.
frustrating, right?
Super, super frustrating. And I've done everything like ultrasounds, everything. They're like, hey, there's nothing wrong with you. But I don't feel great, right? Like just there's a big disconnect. So then that's when I started trying out, so I think between the ages of like 25 to 28,
Mhm.
like different types of diets to try and regulate. And I didn't do it very disciplinedly, so I would just like be in and out. Like, okay, I'm gonna try and be like vegan. I'm gonna try and do like low carb. I'm gonna try and be like gluten free. Like I've literally tried every single diet there is out there.
How do you make the connection that, because previously you said you never knew that nutrition could solve a lot of things, but how did you
Yeah.
suddenly it hit you that, oh, I should try different ways of eating to help fix my cramps?
Yeah, so it didn't really come all at once. Yeah, it wasn't like, oh, I figured it out one day and then I was just trying it. But I remember someone telling me, oh, maybe you want to try. It was actually someone who told me, oh, maybe have you tried eating less sugar on the week of your period? And I was like, what does that have to do with it? And they were like, oh, just just try. And then from that piece of information, I started Googling, and then I saw that there were many research papers or other people out there writing that there is a link between what you eat and for females, like your hormonal imbalance. And so I didn't know it straight away, and I didn't know what diet to follow either. I was just like shooting blanks. I would just like try different things to see what works. But it wasn't very systematic, I would say. And at the same time, the period cramps started to get worse and worse each year. So I felt like, okay, it's not working. Like whatever I'm doing is not working. Yeah.
But you mentioned something about taking the pill. Did you eventually take the pill, or did you never took
No, I mean, I never took the pill for this reason, because there's a lot of side effects which I was not comfortable with, and I just felt like it wasn't getting to the root of the problem. And that bugged me, that it wasn't getting to the root of the problem. If you tell me there's nothing wrong, then why should I have to take a contraceptive pill? It just didn't jive with me.
Jive.
Yeah.
How long do you take for your experimental? You say you try different diets. Like how
yeah.
long do you do it before you know it's like not for you?
So at first I would try it on a month by month cycle, right? So I would try it 1 month and then see what happens for my period that month, and then like immediately switch. But what I've realized now through more education is that it takes longer than a month for you to see results.
How long is it?
So I think for at least like 2 to 3 months, you should stick to whatever you're changing in your diet to see the effects. At least for my case, in these like hormonal imbalance stuff. So took me a while. I think I've been doing this for, I mean, I'm 31 now. And so yeah, for 6 years, I've been trying different things to fix my situation.
So you said you switched like a few things. Do you mind elaborating a bit about like what were the things that, you did try and you felt like it did work or like didn't work, just roughly?
Yeah, so I think the first one was cutting out sugar,
Mhm.
which actually works well in other areas of your life, actually, just like
Generally
cutting
a
out.
good
Yeah,
thing.
Yeah.
generally a good thing. And that was quite an easy one, actually. So like from the early parts, like even when I drink Milo, I don't drink it with condensed milk. I don't drink any fizzy drinks. Those were the easy stuff to cut out. But I didn't see a big change in my in kind of my period, but like other things, like I felt less bloated, which was nice. You don't put on weight as much. You can build muscle easier. So that I started and continue because I saw effects in other areas of my life. And then I've tried fully vegetarian before. I've tried almost vegan with like 1 or 2 times meat a month for about 6 or 7 months. I saw pretty good results with that on my period, but it actually gave me very low energy levels throughout the day. So like while I'm fixing one problem, then like you get another problem.
The
like,
other
no
one.
energy. Yeah. And I was losing a lot of weight. I was losing way too much weight. And the problem was because I wasn't tracking. I switched to plant-based, but I didn't realize that then I was eating a lot less calories.
Yeah.
I should have been eating more volume of. I had no idea about these like counting calories stuff and anything. I was just like, oh, I'm gonna go vegetarian and try this. So I've tried vegetarian. I've tried vegan. I've tried low carb. Yeah, which is also good. I think if you wanted to, it's great for a different reason. I think more for like losing weight, but for me, like I had no energy. Like I need carbs. My body needs carbs, and I used to get very bloated on. I used to get very bloated on low carbs because the things that you eat in lieu of the carbs, for me, my body didn't digest it very well. So I was like, oh, okay, I don't want to feel bloated. Then I've tried food cycling. So there's this thing where like you cycle your food with your period. So you have like 4 phases as a girl in a month. And basically it's from a book called The Women Code. So each cycle your hormones changes, right? Because like your body's prepping to get pregnant or prepping for ovulation. So you basically sync your food to whatever is deficient during that week.
Each time.
Yeah,
Girl,
each
that
time.
sounds a hell lot of work.
It's a lot of work. So it wasn't sustainable because I cannot remember what I'm supposed to do each week. Yeah, I couldn't remember. Although that I think gave me the best results. I did it for 6 or 8 weeks. Yeah.
So like you eat different type of foods during different...
Yes.
Oh, okay. And is it like, do you have to follow to the T or...
No, they would just say like this is the groups of foods you should focus on. So like for example, like when you have your period, your body can actually absorb more iron than the rest of the month because you're like losing blood, right? So I think we absorb something like 1.4 grams of iron, whereas normally it's like 0.8. So like, your body is changing, so you can absorb more. So then I try to eat more red meats.
So you should eat more iron when you have your period. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
You lose, I mean, generally people supplement throughout the month, right? But if you want to kind of counteract the effect of your body, you can make it more intense during that period.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
So I've tried that as well, but it was not sustainable.
Oh, okay. But it helped with your issue.
It did. But then the second problem is I need to incorporate the diet into my lifestyle. Like it needs to... So this is the reason why I don't like to think of it as a diet, because a diet connotates like short term, right? It's going to end at some point. But I think eating choices, where it has worked for me is when it has now become part of my life. Like this is just how I eat every day. I don't even have to think. It's autopilot already.
Right.
From when I go to the grocery store, the things that I put in my basket to the things that on a really lazy day, like what will I turn to, has to be choices that are good for me. So yeah, so I've kind of settled on an area, but I'm still experimenting. So I haven't decided on like, I can't even call it a diet. It's more like a lifestyle. Yeah.
I think your whole story kind of really also, I jive really well with like my own eating sort of philosophy. Is I think we fall into the trap that there is just going to be a miracle diet that
Yeah.
would work for what you need. But just as how Marsha's story has been, one was good for her period pain, but then she like felt no energy.
Yeah.
So there's always a balance that we need
Mm-hmm.
to kind of listen to our body for, and then what works for you is going to be different for what
Yeah.
works. And unfortunately, you have to do it through experimentation. So it's going to take all that story that you guys just heard, what Marsha went through, like it will pay dividends once you get to that spot where you suddenly realize you're eating this and you're like, confirm, you know you're going to feel good because you know these are tried and tested food that will
Exactly.
make, that will make you feel better
Yeah.
in general.
And Amira, what's your trigger? Like, how did you?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I got fat. That's pretty much it. I have always been overweight. I have always in this pursuit of losing weight all throughout my life. There has not been a time where that I remember that I'm not trying to lose weight. In my 20s, it was very aesthetically driven. I wanted to look better. So I tried different things that I think were not sustainable, hence why it wasn't what worked.
Yeah.
So when I was approaching my 30s, like the biggest thing was my boyfriend, who is 6 foot over. I'm 5 foot over, but it got to a point where I was the same weight as he was, and he's 1 foot taller than I am.
Oh.
We should not be the same weight because of our size. So, and of course, that plays into the insecurity.
Yeah.
As again, I don't know. I think it's the fat kid in me. I get very insecure when I'm heavier than my boyfriends because you're supposed to be the girl. You're supposed to be delicate and light, and your boyfriend's gonna carry you up and like bring you to your new house. Like that was just something that I think a lot about.
Yeah,
A
for
fat
sure.
kid think a lot about those kind of things. So that was a trigger, and then that was a big one, right? Suddenly realizing like I have the same weight as a 6 foot guy.
Yeah.
And then I started not being able to do a lot of the things that I love, not being able to run, sustain playing netball, not being able to dance for more than 30 minutes. And I even managed to convince myself that it's okay, this is where you are. So there were a lot of breaking points, but a lot of it had to do with me deciding once and for all that I'm not going to be okay with this. So then I started exploring many different ways. For our viewers who probably, you guys know this already, but I have lost considerable amount of weight for the past 2 years. So this has been my only success story ever. In my 30 years of always trying to lose weight, this has been the only time that people have actually seen or commented on the weight loss. So something worked. Something happened 2 years ago when I had this shift and it worked. And I tried a lot of different things. And this includes eating better, working out, sleeping. So, there's a lot that comes with losing weight, and I can talk more and more about it. But getting a hold of my nutrition and getting a hold of what I put, the choices I make about what I put in my mouth has, I think, been the biggest contributor in the weight loss, and also why that weight loss have been sustainable. So that, it became from it became wanting to look thinner to like physically feeling that I am not okay not being able to do things that I like to do. And I don't know, I can't even like explain to you, like one day I just like, this is not my life. I'm not doing this anymore.
And you mentioned sorry, you can continue. I'm not going to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
No, you mentioned something that this was the first time where you made the connection with nutrition compared to like the past 30 years. So what led to that?
I just I sort of like force fed myself things that. So I tried to diet, all those times that I like did not manage to lose weight. I tried to diet by like eating salads, but like not really understanding like what's in the salad. I just know that eating salads supposedly make you lose weight.
Right.
I wasn't really like looking into it. But the latest one, when it was a success, I think I just had a really good group of friends around me who was also sort of on their journey, I guess. And you hang out and like, hey, why you not eating? Oh, I'm intermittent fasting. Oh, what is
Yeah.
that? And then people were like, oh, I just bought this like huge thing of like salmon, can buy a lot together. You want to get in? So it really became sort of like the people around me started to become more knowledgeable, and I also got into it, and it became like a community thing. I think like I had a lot
Oh,
of friends who were
nice.
supporting me.
Nice.
Yeah, it was, and you being one of them as well, and that kind of got me into picking better food and having just better like knowledge up here and like what I am putting inside. And I want to speak a little bit more about making it a habit,
Yep.
eating well, and marrying that with like your habits, your daily habits. I'm a lazy person. I'm just gonna say it. Like I have no motivation to eat really, really healthy. If that's all you're gonna tell me is to motivate myself to eat healthy, you just gotta make it easy for me to eat healthy. If it's
Yep.
easy for me to eat healthy, then I will do it because I'm a lazy fuck. So things like making sure having like good food in your fridge, not having snacks anywhere in the home. So it's like things like that actually. And the intelligent, or I guess the knowledgeable part about nutrition will come, and you will slowly get slightly obsessed with it, because once you start seeing results, and the results I'm talking about is not so much the weight, what I am seeing on the scale is after eating this, after eating lunch and then you go back to work and you're like, what happened to the food coma? There's like no food coma. That's
Yeah.
because you're eating good lunch. The
Yeah.
food that you're eating for like, and that's so important.
Yes.
And yeah, it's like, little things like that
Yes.
is, you start seeing your body feel better. You start seeing, you can fit into clothes a bit better. So then that snowball into,
Right.
bigger, more sustainable.
There's
Again,
this
it's all.
quote.
Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, there's this quote that I really like, which basically says that most people don't actually know what it feels like to have a body that feels good, because we have this eating culture where feeling bad is supposed to be normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like
What
all
do you
the food
mean?
that, so it's like kind of like fast food, processed food, and I guess like Malaysian food as well. Like everything we eat, because we've eaten it since we're young, we think this is normal. And
We have
like
that.
like, oh, the after lunch food coma is
Mm-hmm.
normal,
Normal.
but
Mm-hmm.
actually it's not. You can feel so much better. Like it is not normal not to feel great.
Yeah.
To feel like great, not just good, but like great. You can feel great. And I think that is something that most people don't experience, because like we have this like really the food that we have been eating since we're young, we're just not educated about it to know how to make better choices. Yeah.
It's not normal to feel bloated when you eat something, right? That means your body doesn't agree with that food.
Your body doesn't agree with it. Yeah, listen to your body.
Yeah, exactly. I think
It's cliche, but listen to your body. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Exactly. Yeah.
What about you, Kuya?
so for me, it was more of like, so I got into dieting just mainly to lose weight. Up until I was like, I think when we went to the UK to study, right? So I was like making my own food. I got really into cooking in my 20, since I was 20. So I was like, because I've always enjoyed watching people on YouTube losing weight. So there's like what they do and like learning about different diets. So that was how I was exposed. It was through YouTube. So that was how, because at that time, like a lot of my friends, they were not into dieting. I mean, like you guys were not into dieting. Because like,
Yeah.
I think people just viewed dieting as like petty, like, oh, like just vain, or like something frivolous. So like I just turned to YouTube and to like get all my knowledge and everything. So I learned the trigger was that because I had so I was bulimic from I was 16 until I was 28. But when I was 20, so bulimia is when you eat a lot, you binge, and then you purge it all out. So essentially, I was basically, because I was a kid, right? So I didn't know what to do. And I remember one friend in school said, oh, you know that you can throw it all out. And I was like, what? That was how I knew about bulimia. So
That is a lot of how a lot of girls learn
you're
how to
right.
be
Yeah.
how to be
Yeah.
bulimic. Yeah. I went to an all girl. I mean, not all girl. I was in a dorm, right, boarding school, and
Mm.
we see that too. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
So I got into so I was bulimic, and then I always feel tired most of the time because, and I wasn't really sure like what I was doing because I was always, because the binging kind of made me more addicted to food, and it was always like the high, like the binge. When you're binging, it's like you're on this like new level of high where like that's all you want to do, and then purging comes, and then you just die. Well, basically you sleep lah after that because you have zero. So then, when I started making my own food in the UK, I learned that like, oh, like I think it's kind of healthy. I don't need to purge it out. So slowly, because of that, I did start feeling better. So I was really worried about stopping being bulimic because I was worried I would gain weight. So then I did YouTube about how to research about like how to sustain your body weight and like what's your ideal body weight and everything. So then, and I hate exercising, by the way. So I'm lazy too lah. I like the easy way out. So so then I started making my own food and educating myself about nutrition through my YouTubers. So they told me that you eat, whole grains and don't cut
Yeah.
out white flour and all those things. So I started eating muesli, but I would eat like every day. I would eat, make sure I have 3 good meals, and then I didn't gain weight. So I was like, I'm eating, but you're
Uh-huh.
not gaining weight. So I was like, and I feel so much better. Like I could focus more in class, and I was just like, oh,
Mhm.
like it's just a matter of figuring out the kind of food that works for me. So I think that was the beginning for me, like how I realized how nutrition can change, and also like the mindset. I think when you think about nutrition and like body image issues, 90% of the time is also your mental health, like your
Mhm.
mental image of yourself, and like how much negative talk you tell yourself, like you're so fat, you're ugly, all those things. So I did, when I ate and prepared my own food, I didn't feel like the negativity didn't come to me like, oh, you should purge it out, because it felt good. I felt good, like my body felt good, I had energy. So I started to like not hate myself as much, I feel. So I was always like, I hated myself growing up because I didn't like anything about me. But then when I was in my early 20s was when I started, hey, you're not that bad. So I think that mindset also helped me sustain this lifestyle. Yeah.
That's amazing to hear.
Yeah.
And just by controlling food, right? See how like
Exactly.
it affects everything else
Everything.
in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like that was also like when I was in my 20s, I discovered that like I can't really eat that much bread, like gluten, because my dad, my family, like we always eat roti canai in breakfast morning. Right? So as a kid, like I would go get roti canai, and I would always get stomach aches. Like after roti canai, I always get the worst like stomach aches. But like I think it's normal. Like it's like I always eat
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
right, and then
normalize exactly what Mark
It
said.
goes
We
back to it's
normalize.
normal. Yeah.
no, then like because when I was in the UK, like I didn't eat roti canai, and I was like, after I eat my muesli or my oatmeal, like I don't get anything. Like I feel good. So that was also like one of the things that I made the connection about like how certain foods don't agree with you, and I learned about like cutting out certain things for your body type. So mainly just YouTube and Google. Yeah. Okay. I think I also want to ask about, because we talked about our briefly about how we got into nutrition. So Mars, like how has your perception changed from a teenager about your body, from when you were a teenager up until like now in your 30s, in terms of your body image and how you view yourself?
I think I actually still do have the same thoughts on performance with my body. I think that hasn't changed, but I think my assumption on what drives performance has changed. Before I used to just think it's just inherently whether you have a strong body or you don't have a strong body. It's binary, right? It's either you can do this or you can't, and it's inherent. If you can't, means like that's it. You're just not meant. You're just not meant for this. You're not a runner. You're not a swimmer. You're not a mountain climber. Whatever. It's just you're not. Now I believe that your body performance is a function of like the input that you put into it. It can change. So now I focus more not on the output of what my body can do, but on the input. So like, if I'm eating well, if I'm training well, if I'm doing all these things, even though I can't, run as fast, if I can't climb as fast, whatever, like I don't care, because like all the inputs that I'm doing is correct. Whereas I think when I was in my 20s, I was more super results driven. Like, can I do this or can I not do this? And if I can't, means it's just like, you suck, don't do this, move on, get a new hobby. Literally, that would be my thought process. So I'm very like, unless I can get like above average at something on the first go, then I wouldn't even try. Like, I'm like a jack of all trades, master of none, basically. I would just try different things, like what I can do, and then like move on. But now I'm a little bit more focused. Like, okay, if you really, really want to do something, what are the inputs that you need to control to your body? And like, are you doing that every day? Like, now I'm really into hiking and mountaineering, and I really want to take that a little bit more seriously. And it's like, okay, every day are the food choices and the training that I do reflective of like whoever my ideal mountaineer is, like, are you doing that every day? If you're not, then like, I need to fix the things that I'm doing every day, and the results will come. That's, I think, the biggest shift in terms of not expecting my body to just perform, but looking at the inputs that I put into my
Very
body.
Specific.
Yeah, it's super specific. And I think
you're being the master, right? You're saying you're before jack of trades, master of none, but now you're trying to master specific. So it's very intentional. I love this.
And I used to believe that my body is superior if I can do a lot of things without rest. I used to think like sleep is for the weak. I used to have a quote on my wall, which was basically like, sleep is for the weak. I used to love this like hustle culture. It's just like, I'm doing a million things, go home really late, it's fine, sleep for 4 or 5 hours max, and then like get going the next day. And I used to be like, yeah, I'm strong because I can do this. Now I'm like, this is so dumb. Like, you're just going to burn your body out, and instead of you living like very actively for like another like 50 years, I'm going to shorten that to like 20. There's no way you can sustain that. So now I really prioritize sleep and recovery a lot. And that's like part of also nourishing your body, is letting your body rest.
But how have so in terms of like body image, so since you were a teenager, you've always had like would you say a positive image?
Yeah, I think so I've never been fat. So I've never thought like I was a fat person. And yeah, I guess anything to do with my body was always linked to like what it can do.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe you could say that then I had like a positive body image. Like, there was nothing that I didn't like specifically about my body. It was just when my body was not functioning properly that I would get frustrated. So like with these period pains, and the aesthetic part would be like, like the facial hair that used to like get to me a little bit, but like you can fix that, right? Like, and you just like now wax it off or go for threading. So I would say I didn't struggle with more like body fat issues. But yeah, it was never a struggle, but it's been like just a continuous journey of understanding what my body can and can't do.
Right. And what did you think, because you had like a kind of positive image of your body technically, right?
Yeah.
What did you think in your childhood or upbringing contributed to that?
Interesting. So what I've been told when I was young, which contributed to like this like either no period or like a super long period, is that I have an abnormally high metabolic rate. So like, compared to the average person, like if we don't do anything, I just burn more calories than you do. So I think because of that, and because I've always been really, really thin, actually, like my whole life, and people just kind of like that. So they tell you like, oh, it's good, you're so thin. And that just reinforces you to be like, okay, yeah, nothing's wrong. Nothing can be wrong, right? Okay, because you're already thin.
Right.
Yeah, so no one ever commented about my body because I was already, I guess, what society views as ideal. But that's really dumb because you can still have problems and be thin.
Sure, for sure.
Yeah, and like I was clearly having hormonal imbalances. So because I was thin, you have nothing wrong with your body. It's fine. You don't have to investigate further. So I think it's two sides of the coin, right? Like, so even though like I would say I still do have a very positive body image, it gives you a inaccurate confidence that there's nothing wrong.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay, because like my husband is also really thin, but he's a guy, right? So that's not ideal for a guy. So he's like, you're so thin. So he feels pressured to put on weight. And that he mentioned to me that whenever he talks about gaining weight, all of his friends would just be like, oh, shut up. Like, don't be petty.
Yeah.
It's not a serious problem. Because like society still views it as more ideal, I guess, compared. Okay, interesting. And Amira, What about you? Like, how has your body? Because now that you've like lost all this weight, like you said, how has it changed?
I'm gonna report that not much has changed. I have never liked my body. I don't remember a time that I liked my body. I'm gonna sound like a broken record because in my head I'm fat, right? Regardless of
Even
where.
now, is this how you feel now as well?
Yeah. So even now, it's a very interesting thing that I'm going through and now I'm realizing. So I've lost considerable amount of weight. So obviously I look different, but in my head, I still see myself as big Amira. And it's really, really weird because I'll see pictures or videos of me now and I'm still like, who's that person? Like there's still a disconnect. Maybe because I feel I'm not really comfortable yet with this new body. So mentally, I think it's still playing catch up to what my body is going through. So the mental aspect of the mental, fat shaming and identifying yourself as being marginalized because you're overweight, that despite of what weight I am, I think has been ingrained in me too strongly all throughout my life that I still struggle with it. I still think like, oh, my friends are not going to be friends with me because I'm the fattest chick in the group. And, like everybody's like slim and all that still is there despite whatever size I'm in. So it's very disconnecting and confusing. So I'm still working through it. I just recently lost this much of weight, so that's why it's a new
Still adjusting to it.
concept to like adjust. But it is a lot of fun because of the performance, Marsh. And I'm looking at you this because now I'm 20 kilos lighter when I'm running, and I'm like, oh, wow, is this how it's supposed to feel like now? I have like 20 kilos less and I can last longer. When I'm like out, when I dance now, I do yoga now and I'm like hitting all these peak poses that I was like, I didn't know. So it's been fun. Like, I'm like looking at my body now. I'm like, all right, what can you do now?
Yeah, what can you do?
Yeah,
exactly. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been fun. But there's still like emotion, like mentally and emotionally, I'm not one yet with this body, and it takes, I think, more. I think I like to say that once I am slim, then I would hate myself less, right? That's what I tell myself. But hating myself comes with a lot of different aspects. So just because I lost there's other things that I need to be okay with. So I guess the moral of the story is, yes, losing weight is great, but it's, if you have other things to work on, it's not going to be your knight in shining armor. It's it's not going to be that big. It is great though. It is great. Like if you guys are out there trying to lose weight and you guys do it, I'm like, kudos to you because I know how that feels like. Feels hella good. But it's not the end of the story. There's more. I think when you grow up with this much of trauma of being fat, it doesn't change overnight.
Of course. I mean, it took you 30 years to have that mindset, right?
Yeah.
So it's not going to be overnight to like erase all of that, right?
Yeah. I mean, you guys know the BMI, right?
Yeah.
By the way, don't trust don't trust the BMI.
It's not everything.
Yeah. It's not everything, but it's like the common one that people use. So I've always been in the overweight/obese section, and now I'm like normal. So I just want to go back and do like a medical checkup just so that the doctor can, because every time I see a doctor, they say the same thing. You gotta lose weight. What have you been doing? Are you like exercising? But I just want to be like, so my weight is good. No comment, no feedback. Okay. It's new for me.
Wow.
Nice. I love it.
In terms of like, do you think, because Marsh, you mentioned just now, like roughly a more positive body image, and you've had a more negative, I would say, body image. And what do you think was the main contributing factor to your view of your own body?
Ah,
Mhm.
a lot without trying to like point fingers. How do
Of
I
course.
answer this diplomatically? I think what happens is people around me, regardless of who they are, were uncomfortable with my body shape because it was not the normal shape. I had big boobs, I had big butts, a big butt, and my butt was a huge insecurity for me in high school, which is weird because now I think society there is a shift in like how we appreciate women's curves, and now like
Mhm.
Cardi B and the Nicki Minaj
It's
of
Yeah.
all
the
in,
world.
yeah.
Yeah, so now I'm like the hot shit, right? Because I have a big butt. But growing up, that was just not
Mm.
it. Like you, so I think people around me were uncomfortable with how I look. Hence, unfortunately, that made me uncomfortable with how I look because people felt that again I play a lot of sports, do a lot of things, and people were a bit perplexed, like how are you this size and playing a lot of sports? So I think you should like be on a diet. I think you should like work out more. And you're 15 years old. You,
Yeah.
I don't
Of course.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't
Yep.
know, being like, I would just say sometimes, watch what you say around people who have like fat trauma, because I know it comes from a good place a lot of the times, the advices and the reaching out. But you have to understand also that that person is dealing emotionally and mentally with something. It's not just a health situation, but it's years of being marginalized, and that I think not a lot of people are aware, and especially if you've never considered or look yourself or even being accepted in society as fat, I don't think that's something that a lot of people pay attention. I think like fat people are just like, you don't care.
Mhm.
There's this,
Mm.
if you're fat, your whatever you say don't matter. It's not always right.
Mm.
But if you are thin or like slim or a bit more normal, accepted by society, then you have a better, what you say have a better weightage.
Interesting.
This might be weird, but if you really sit down with it,
Mm.
Yeah.
it happens. It happens across all, and I swear to you, talk to anybody else who have considered themselves fat, they will have some similar stories.
Also, I think listening from Marsh and Amira, like you both mentioned that ultimately it's the external, right? The
Yep.
factors that
For
affect
me,
body
yeah.
image. Ultimately, for Marsh
100%.
and Amira is external. That's the one thing that I realized is like, as women, I don't know if it's a women thing, but like we never really look inside, like what we feel without all the views of other people, without other people's views of us. It's like, oh, if you think I'm fat and I can't do sports, maybe I am fat, maybe I can't do sports. But what do you think
Mhm.
truly? Like maybe you can. But like that voice just gets like, I don't know, dimmed down by like all this like pressure from external people. Like people say you're thin and you can do sports. Maybe you have that confidence a bit more because yeah, I think I can play sports, but like there's like all these external people, validating what I
Yep.
feel.
Yeah, you shouldn't be playing sport. That you shouldn't be in the field.
Yeah, I think what I've learned for me personally was like this was also very recent, like maybe 2 years ago since I got married. Don't know why. But I think living on my own was also a big shift for me, like in terms of figuring out like what I like and what I don't like. And I think in my 20s and teens up to my 20s, I hated myself. Like I didn't think I was never fat, but I was never like the thinnest or like whatever. But I just wanted to be it. So then, and I would associate exercise with losing weight. That was my only. So I didn't want to do it. Like when I was bulimic, I didn't want to do exercise because to me it's like, oh, it's only about losing weight. But then I think last year, like I went to a class, like a Pilates class, and I told myself, this is just for you to feel good, but it has nothing to do with how you look. It has nothing to do with how you look. And I actually loved it. And I was just like, so I've been exercising consistently for 1 year since 2020. And like, this was the first time that I've ever exercised consistently. Before this, it was always just to lose weight and then you gain back the weight, all those things. And I feel like, yeah, it's ultimately just the perception of myself towards myself has changed. Like, I don't know, why do you think we put so much emphasis on other people's view of us? How does it affect us so much? Marsh.
I think when you're younger, you just don't know any better, right? Because you are in this phase where, like, you're going to school, people are teaching you knowledge. You know that you don't know. You're a kid, right? You're not meant to know everything. So whatever people tell you, you take it more seriously. But as you grow older and you realize that actually most people don't know what they're talking about either, then you become a little bit, now, people still say stuff, but I think I'm a little bit more critical of what people say. So I just think it's like when you're growing up, like for me, like I guess I was lucky, right? At that time, like the Paris Hilton look was what was in, which is skinny, no butt, no boobs, and that was me. So great, tick. I got that validation. But, now that body type is not in fashion anymore. And I'm sure if you're a girl growing up like 13, 14, 15, whatever, you want to be more curvy, whatever is in now. And you just don't know any better. So I think this is really where the your environment and the people you're around, either your parents, your teachers, older people who know better, have a responsibility to make sure, like, when you don't know any better and you're in that age group, to be very mindful of what you say about people's body types, how they look, that it shouldn't be like what you said, Kuya, like benchmark to external trends and what's in, but rather like that you feel good as a person. That should be the benchmark of success of what your body looks like and can do, not what's in trend at that point in time.
For me, representation of different body types is important in public eyes, in public view. So like in the media, and people talk about this all the time, there is a standard ideal of how a body should look like, and that is what is celebrated in the media. But we don't really celebrate, say, like strong women who are able to do, CrossFit. We don't celebrate really like delicate women like ballerinas who are like light, but they're actually, so that if we are able to showcase in our media that there are different types of women and all of them are acceptable in their own way, I think that is, on the macro level, will help younger girls look at themselves, and there'll be somebody on TV that has the body shape that she has, and she'd be like, yeah, that's okay. I don't have to be looking like Beyonce.
Right.
With like, the curves and all that, because she probably looks like, I don't know, Michelle Obama, who's like a bit more fit, right? Yeah. And both of that body is fine.
Correct. And they're healthy and fully functioning as well. Right. And I think if you were to go back to your younger selves, because I think I recently posted a TikTok about some of my eating issues, and I got a lot of feedback from a lot of young girls asking me how do they be more comfortable and confident with themselves at a very young age, because like Marisha said, you didn't know better, right? We didn't know better. How do you build that confidence? Because I always thought confidence was something that either you were born with it or you're not. Either you're confident or you're not. But what do you guys think about like confidence, and how do you build your own confidence? Marisha,
that's a good question.
I go first.
Okay.
Yeah, you go first.
In terms of like at least how I kind of did it when I was younger, I didn't have confidence in my body like image, because I felt like I was fat, but I felt like I compensated by being really good at things that I'm good at, and kind of like putting everything into things that at that point in time it was music or dancing and something in the arts, and also sports, right? So that built my confidence of who I am. So like I said, I was still running sprint, so I was the 100-meter sprinter, even though I looked like a teddy bear running, but I was a hella good sprinter. So that gave me confidence. I still don't like my body because it looked like a teddy bear, but I was damn good runner. So that kind of like, I just want to say haters. So that's sort of like, I would say like, and it doesn't have to be like a physical thing, right? If you are a singer, then, get into those, like hone into like what makes you and like really own it. I don't know whether that's the best advice for teenagers, if they would like really go into things that you're good at and like have pride in those things, because you don't need to be confident. You don't need your body image, your body to give you the confidence.
Sure.
Grab something else around it. But if your body already gives you the confidence, then
use it.
Yeah, then go with it.
Okay. And I think from my point of view, it's just more of like your worth is not like this is for me, like how I felt. I feel like my worth was tied to how I look, but actually it's your worth as a human being has actually nothing to do with how you look. I mean, it's like you see a flower, yeah, it's beautiful, but it's breathing, it's living, it's growing every day. So as a human being, I feel like there are so many aspects of you that makes you beautiful and wonderful. And I think just try to like embrace like all the different things. So even though say you're different, like your hair is not straight, or like you're not thin, or you're not tall, or whatever, it doesn't matter, because you're still you. Like there's only one you in this world. And I think as a teenager, we used to always compare ourselves to the ideal standard, like, oh, this is the popular kid or whatever, and I'm not that standard, so therefore I feel worthless, or like I'm a loser. But actually, yeah, like Amira, she managed to find things that she's actually really good at and hone in on that. And your value your value as a human can come from many other things, not just how you look, not just how you perform in school. There are many other things. Even if you're bad academically, or you feel like you're ugly and you're bad in school, that was how I felt, like, oh, I'm like not so good here. I'm not an athlete. I'm ugly. So what am I? That was what I felt to an extent, because I didn't fit into any mold specifically. But I think now looking back, it's okay. Maybe the mold that society created, like to be good in school, to be this, is not for you. And, as you get older, you can find your path, your own path, because everybody is different. That's what I learned.
Very well said. Very well said.
I think I also want to jump into the next question, about health. Like, because I think we've all had like varying experience of health. So, Marsha, like, what does health mean to you now as a 30-plus-year-old woman?
Feeling good and getting this body to do like all the amazing things that I want out of life, and that it can do that. Like that is what I want. And to me, that is healthy. Also, one of the things that recently I discovered is, so I went for like basically gene testing, so you can test your genes.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, to basically see like what you're more predisposition to, so that you can make like more informed health choices. And like cancer runs in my family. Like my dad had cancer, my uncle passed away from cancer, and I found out that like I am 6 times more likely than the average person to get the same cancer that my dad did. So I think health is also knowing like the background that you come from and taking preemptive measures. So like I feel like right now I'm completely healthy and I'm completely fine. I have this hormonal issue, I'm working on it, and I'm pushing my body to do these like amazing things that I want it to do in life. But at the same time, I'm super paranoid actually about like growing old. So like I'm like, oh, I don't want to be 50 and like have to go through chemo, or I don't want to be like I think a lot about growing old actually. And then just living through those moments of what I want to be when I'm 80 really makes me motivated to be healthy right now, even though at this moment in time I do feel great already. I would say like that's the one thing that's changed actually in the last like 1 year, is also thinking like, what do I want to be when I'm like 80,
Okay, so to sum it up, health to you is like functioning body, optimal, and like you can do the things that you want, right?
Yeah, like I want to be hiking when I'm 80,
Right,
like
okay.
This is what I want to do. Like that's my idea of like success down the road. Like, yeah.
I think a lot of people don't really think about their health until there's an issue,
Yeah.
right? And people don't think about how are they preparing themselves to be like in the 80s and the 90s, which is like what you are currently obsessing
Yeah.
about. And that is sort of the long-term game of health and nutrition. And I'm speaking from somebody who is like going through a weight loss period. There is this like feeling that people are so what's your target? Where are you landing? Where are you hitting?
Yeah. Okay. Like when does it stop? Like,
Where?
yeah.
I also don't know. Like I don't know. I don't know how to. I think maybe like a year ago, when you asked me the question, yes, there was something that I wanted to hit, which I am already now and already surpassed it actually. But now as I'm looking at that target, I actually don't, and I completely feel what Marsh is saying. Like, I'm more focused on like the functionality of my body now. It's not so much. No, that's a lie. I still want to look good, but I want to also, the biggest thing is to look at the longevity of my health. I don't want to look good until I'm 40, and then because of the habits that I built to do that, it doesn't sustain until when I'm like kind of old and some things are not working. So For me now, it's about functionality and like what is going to carry me to 100 years old. What are the things that I eat or the things that I do? Maybe now I can't do like crazy like triathlon, because if I do it with my knee that is not replaced, I'm not gonna last until 100. So even though it's good, it's healthy, because in the short term, like I get to complete a triathlon, but it's not gonna get me to 100 years old. That is now sort of my decisioning when it comes to health. Although this like weight thing, like what scale I'm hitting, I still get triggered because I'm sure we are all at different weight, right? But we all feel that we're in a good space. But once I hear like how much you guys weigh, then I immediately like, oh wait, and then I should be that weight. So it's a struggle, but it's continuously reminding it's about long-term goals. It's not about short-term. If you wanna make it, make your life or body, really need to think long term. And once you change that kind of mentality, I think some of the decisions that you make will guide you differently.
And I think, Kuya, your point on that every single person is an individual really ties in super importantly to this whole nutrition and health thing, because everyone starts from a different deck of cards. You're all dealt a different set of cards, right? So like, for example, I might be dealt a card with like, oh, you have super high metabolism, so you'll always be thin. But then you have all these hormonal issues, but you're super good at this, but you'll be bad at this. So the things that I have to work on will be completely different than what Myra has to work on, right? Because your body is predispositioned for different things. There will be some things that you're naturally better at and that you will naturally have to work more on, and that's okay. And that's why comparison is really bad, because all of us are made up with completely different DNAs. Means your body is actually biologically able to do certain things better or less better than other people, and that's why it should be a personal journey, not like something that you compare against others. So I think the point that you made earlier, that we're all different, that needs to be reminded over and over and over again. Yeah,
because I think
Here.
as like teenagers, like I don't know, I used to compare myself a lot to like a lot of people, like, in terms of grades, looks, careers. I think for me, in terms of health, like what I view health is like, fully functioning body, but also I think about mental health, like how I view myself is also something that, because I have this very negative body image or like self-image, so I feel like you have to find it within you to also learn to like yourself without the external validation. Like, it's maybe people are not saying things that you want to hear, but you don't need that. I mean, you don't. I think just try to find something within you to like about, like either love yourself or like, so it's more about like the whole self-love. I think once you have like a healthier mind, everything else will kind of fall into place. Because like, if you feel like you love your body, so you want to nourish it in a way that will support your body rather than hating your body and just starving it, or like not putting it to good use. So I think once that is what health looks to me. I think it's like having a healthy mind as well as a healthy body. And healthy relationships is also like who you consume. Like, we are an average of what we consume, which includes food, what we read on the media, your friends and family. So if you know some people who are just being very negative, maybe you can distance yourself and like try to surround yourself with more positivity.
Cleanse it out of your diet.
Yeah. I think also the last point, just because I think nutrition is very a sensitive subject. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to go. They just tie nutrition to like diet or like
diet. Yeah,
diet, like how we used to think that, right? So how do you, if I'm someone who wants to get healthy, but I don't have a lot of money, because it can be quite expensive, what advice would you give them?
So I would break down what healthy means, first of all, right? Like, what is it? Is it, do you want to get more energy? And pick one. Focus on one first. Like, is it you want to lose weight? You want to build more muscle? You want to get more energy? You're trying to, maybe you have digestive issues. Maybe you are feeling tired all the time. Like, what, like, pick a specific thing that you actually want to improve, versus then being super general, because it's really hard when it's very general, because you have all sorts of areas you could start with. It's so overwhelming and you'll never like consistently do it over time. So pick one thing, and then start with, like, I think Mara, you said earlier about like making it a habit, and this is my holy grail on like nutrition. It's like, if it's not something you enjoy doing and you can't see yourself doing it for like 10 years, it's not gonna stick. It's just not gonna stick. If you love chocolate, for example, like you love chocolate, don't cut it out. You can create a nutritional plan around the things that you love. It doesn't have to be restrictive. I think a lot of people think like, to be healthy, I need to be restrictive. I can't eat this. I can't eat that. I can't. But actually, you look at it from a holistic point of view. Pick a goal. Let's say it's weight loss, right? And then go and research like what are the things that you should do for weight loss. So you should eat in a calorie deficit. So then what are calories? Like, what is my calorie intake for the day and what do I need? And then cut accordingly, and then just try that out for a while. And once you enjoy it and you find that you can keep it up, then introduce another element to your dieting until it becomes a new habit. Then introduce another one. I would say like take it once at a time versus like trying to do everything at once. It's super overwhelming and it won't stick.
Okay. Super helpful. I think.
To add to that, I think like 100% everything that Marsh said is essentially how I did my whole weight loss journey as well. Just additionally, at least what helped for me was when I first go on it, you guys are gonna hate to do this, but just record everything you eat for say 1 week, right? Record everything you eat with no judgment. No judgment. It's just a recording exercise. Because you just want to like something point blank, see what you are putting in your mouth. The thing about us is I feel we kid ourselves into thinking that we always make healthy decisions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But when it actually is time to decide on what to order and grab food, more often than not, we change our person who we are. We decide to order McDonald's instead. And then at night, we start reaching out into the ice cream. But all those little things adds up. So the first thing I did that I think helped was just recording what I was eating, and then I saw, like a third person saw exactly what Amira is putting in her mouth. I realized I had a habit of snacking. Unnecessary snacking. It's like at night I had a really really like crazy day, so like I'm gonna like reward myself with some ice cream, or tonight is the season premiere of Game of Thrones, so I should have some like snacks because I want to eat
Chips, popcorn, everything.
which is all fine. But what I realized is for me it was unnecessary. Like I did not derive enough joy for me to be eating that. And then once I realized it, then you can start working on taking out certain things and putting in. And the thing about recording with no judgment, is that it becomes for me a way to have self accountability, because it might be 11 p.m. and I'm about to reach out for my ice cream. And then I look at it and I'm like, I'm going to have to record this if I eat it. And future Amira is probably going to be so pissed at me right now for making this decision. So then I decide I am like self-policing myself because I have to record it. At least that worked for me. The act of recording things. And there's this saying, you can't improve anything that you can't if you don't measure it.
Yep.
Right? You have to improve
Measure
anything.
what matters. Yes.
Yeah, you measure that, and then after you apply whatever improvement that you have, then you measure that, and then you see the output. So it's as simple as everybody has iNotes or notes on your phone. Just start putting. You don't even have to put calories if you want to. That's great. I did eventually went into calorie counting for a bit, but again, just being more informed about what you eat, and then you're realizing like what are your trends, what are your habits, and then making informed decision. And then after that, that's when, for me, like not having any chips or ice cream at home, only having fruits. So even if I want to have a snack, so what Marsh said, don't limit yourself. So I still wanted to snack, but then I'll have like a pear instead, so it's like a better way. And moderation is key. Also in line with what Marsh says is find something that you love, find healthy foods that you love, and hold on to it like dear life. Like this is going to be your saving grace for the first part as you're getting into like healthy eating. And then you harp onto that, and then slowly you'll start incorporating other things and make it you. Okay, just because people eat broccoli and you don't like broccoli, then
move on.
Away. Find something else that you like. Don't follow the trends.
100%. I think so. Just to recap, Marsh said pick one thing that you want to focus on, whether it's your energy level or weight loss, and then try to make it a lifestyle choice rather than a dieting kind of thing. Okay. And Amira mentioned too, that was super helpful to her, was to record what you eat, to track, so that you understand your behavior and why you're making certain choices. I'm gonna be like a party pooper here, because I work very differently compared to Marsha and Amira. I don't like to track, and like I'm not a very systematic person. So I feel like the tracking and everything would give me more pressure. That was how it worked for me. So because I did track as well, and I think it gave me more pressure, and I was because I had like a very negative voice in my head. So that I'm like failing myself, it kind of just made it worse, and then I would binge. So I think what worked for me was number one, to like be nicer to yourself. Like the voice in your head needs to be nice. That's why I said like you need to fix your mental health, and like the voice in your head needs to be nice, to be kinder to yourself. And yeah, like you guys mentioned, everything in moderation, and don't deprive anything, because I feel like when I was bulimic, I would deprive myself of like say chocolates. That's bad, fries bad, blah blah blah. And so I won't eat it for like a few hours, right? And then at night I'm like super hungry. I'll go like super crazy and like, okay, I'm gonna binge, blah blah blah. And I would eat in secret because I was ashamed of how much junk I was putting in my body. But I also read a quote that says, "What you eat in secret will show in public." So that kind of made me stop like binging at night, because that was what I used to do. So I feel like what worked for me to sustain my weight, I feel, because I was always on this yo-yo journey, so my weight was like going up and down. So I think just to make sure that it's sustainable, I just listen to my body. I mean, it's just so cliche because you don't know what works, right? So I think what I did was like, okay, like I need to incorporate more healthy grains. So let me try that. If it feels good, you don't feel deprived, you don't feel hungry after, yeah, okay, I'm going to stick to this. Like I still eat like potatoes and I still eat chips, but maybe I try to make, because I like to cook. That's me personally. So I try to make something maybe a bit healthier. It may not be the most healthiest thing, but like brownies. So I'll try and like use different type of flour and everything. So I think just listen to your body as well. And like, if you don't feel like exercising, don't punish yourself. If you feel like having pizza, because I love pizza. So I would like, this is like my train of thought. Like, so I've been eating really well for a week, and then I'm just like, oh, I want to eat pizza. I just want to be bad. Like, I want to eat, like, because, you know, something is coming out, like movie premiere or something. So I was just like, okay, I want to order pizza. And the old me would have been like, you're such a loser. Like, you know, you're ruining all your efforts, blah, blah. But now it's just like, okay, have your pizza, have a good time.
Exactly.
Tomorrow is a new day. Like, it's
exactly.
fine. Yeah, I think
if we all think that, you know, in our lives, just like 80% of the time, if we eat good, if we can just focus on that, we don't go 100%, don't go 100%, go like 80%. So then you still have that 20%. It's still okay. It's still okay and doable. So allow yourself whatever it is that you want, that 20%, eat whatever you want. But again, in general, 20%. The rest of the 80%, not super strict diet, but just more
better choices.
healthy, better choice. Yeah.
And it's like, for me, is that I would make sure that one meal I'll have like carbs, protein, veggies. Like, at least, like, if I do that, that's instead of counting calories, because I used to be obsessed with like calorie counting. I used to eat like below 1,000 or like below 800 at one point when I was wanting to lose weight. So like, yeah, so that kind of like threw me off, like calorie counting. So what I did was just like, okay, like each meal, I'll look at my plate and be like, okay, there's carbs, there's like protein, then there's like good fats, or like something that I know sits well with me. And that's it. Like, okay, the portion is fine, but sometimes if I want, because I tend to like overeat on like carbs. Like, I love carbs so much, but it doesn't work well for my body because it drains me. And I noticed that my blood type, I don't know if you guys believe in this, like blood type, eat for your blood type. Have you guys heard?
I've read a little bit about it.
I've seen, yeah.
I don't know if
the jury is still out.
Yeah. For sure. But I think like for me, like carbs, because I'm blood type O, carbs just doesn't do well for me. So like I would make sure that like half of my plate is at least veggies. And then like, but I mean, that's the rule that worked for me to sustain. But everybody is different. So figure out what works for you, I think, ultimately.
Yeah, I'm pretty same as you. So like if I have a plate, I'll just make sure half of it is veggies. The carb is like ideally like brown or like more complex carb, like so like not white rice, not white pasta. And then like I always try to have like a nice like either a chicken or a salmon or something like which is like more like lean protein. And then that's kind of like where I've settled on when I'm lazy to think of anything else. Yeah.
And you indulge, right? Like you guys all indulge. Like if you feel like having an ice cream.
I have a massive sweet tooth. I love desserts. Like I love desserts. So like to me, like that's like a non-negotiable. Like I need to have that, and I have it actually once a day. Like I do, yeah. And it fits in. You know, it's like it's fine. It's part of my diet. It's part of my lifestyle. I'll make other choices around it that work. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I like white rice,
Oh, me
and
too.
I will eat it no matter what people tell me.
Yeah.
But of course, I don't eat it as much. So yeah, those things that I indulge, I am Melayu, and I want makan my masak lemak with white rice, not brown rice shit. If you want to eat lauk lemak, you have to eat it with white rice.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that's definitely, I think, don't there's not one food that I don't eat. That's not one
Yeah.
food.
Yeah.
There's no rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in general, again, 80% of the time, I'm choosing like a different set of food.
Because it makes you feel good, right? Like ultimately it's focused on like how you feel. Because if you just try eating good for 1 week and ask yourself how you feel after eating good. Like if you feel better, then maybe you were eating kind of not so good before, kind of thing. Okay, so I think we're at the end of our session already. So I'd like to thank Marsh again for taking the time to speak to us.
Thanks for having me. It was super fun. And all the best to anybody out there who's listening on their nutrition or fitness journey. It's lifelong, so it never stops. And I hope you enjoy it and get the best out of your body because this body is amazing.
Well said. Well
And you only
said.
have one body. You only have one body.